After 33 years of marriage, my husband left me stranded in the parking lot of Silver Horizon Casino, just outside Riverstone Falls. No purse, no phone, no keys, not even a jacket thick enough for the early November wind. I watched him drive away in our navy blue sedan, windshield wipers slashing across the glass while he didn't look back once. I remember wrapping my arms around myself, trying to make sense of what had just happened, when a thin, older woman with silver hair, a velvet shawl, and a beautifully carved cane walked up to me. "I heard everything," she said softly. "If you don't mind pretending to be my daughter for a few minutes, my driver will be here shortly. And that man of yours is about to realize he's walked away from someone standing beside the wealthiest woman in Northvale County." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "This has to be a joke," I whispered. "It isn't," she said. "And if you let me, I'll tell you how this moment can change everything you think you know about loyalty, love, and the life you deserve. My name is Elena Rowe, and until that miserable night, I believed my life, ordinary, quiet, predictable, was steady enough. My husband, Gerald, and I married when I was 23. He was 25, working as a junior electrician in Port Lark, and I was a clerk at a stationery shop. We married in a tiny courthouse ceremony. No flowers, no guests, just love or something that felt like it. We tried for children for years. Treatments, tests, procedures that drained us emotionally and financially. Nothing worked. Gerald insisted it didn't matter. We'd travel, adopt pets, take small joys where we found them. But somewhere deep inside, I always sensed he blamed me. A quiet blame, a steady one. I worked as a bookkeeper, steady and diligent. Gerald built his own electrical maintenance business. We bought a modest 2-bedroom home in Ridgeview Park, an old neighborhood with narrow streets and overgrown hedges. We weren't rich, but we managed. At least we used to, because around 5 years ago, Gerald began to change. New clothes, new colognes, nights out with clients. A second phone, he said, was for work emergencies. He'd glance at messages and smirk to himself. I recognized the signs other women whispered about, but I convinced myself it was stress, not betrayal. I didn't confront him, not because I trusted him blindly, no, but because I was terrified of losing him and discovering that 3 decades of my life had been built on sand. That night at Silver Horizon was supposed to be our recommitment trip, or so I thought. But standing there in the icy wind, beside a stranger who seemed to know more than she should, I realized something awful. My marriage had ended long before that parking lot, and what happened next would change my life in ways I could never have imagined. Because the moment her driver arrived, my entire fate shifted, and so did Gerald's. The woman with the silver hair didn't speak again right away. She simply stood beside me, steadying herself with her carved cane as the wind grew colder. Her presence felt strangely calm, like she had stepped out of another world entirely and into mine just when everything had collapsed. "You must be frozen," she finally said. "Come stand under the awning with me." I followed her without thinking. Maybe shock does that. Makes you trust the kindness of strangers more easily than your own judgment. As we moved under the dim casino awning lights, she turned to me. "I'm Marjorie Hale," she said. "Most people just call me Mara." I swallowed. "Elena," I said. She nodded, as if she already knew. "Elena, I don't mean to pry, but leaving someone with no way home, that's not a mistake. That's a declaration." My chest tightened. "We had an argument. You had a revelation," she corrected gently. "It just hasn't finished unfurling yet." Before I could answer, a sleek black Rolls-Royce Ghost glided toward us, headlights cutting through the mist. A uniformed driver stepped out, umbrella in hand. "There," Mara whispered. "That's our cue." "Our?" The driver approached and gave a respectful bow. "Mrs. Hale, apologies for the delay. There was heavy traffic by Ridgeway Bridge." "No need to apologize, Lionel," she said. "Elena, dear, help me in, will you? My hip hates the cold." I hesitated only a second. Between freezing in a parking lot and helping a stranger into a warm luxury car, The choice wasn't complicated. I supported her carefully as she eased into the soft leather interior. "Good," she said, patting the seat beside her. "Now get in, quickly." I slid into the car. The warmth hit me instantly, almost painfully. Lionel closed the door, sealing us inside the quiet cabin. That's when I saw them, Gerald and the woman he'd left with. They stood under the casino lights, only 20 meters away. The woman, a blonde in her late 30s with a red coat and smug posture, was mid-laugh. Gerald was leaned in close, hand on her lower back. They both noticed the Rolls-Royce at the same time, and then they saw me inside it. Gerald's expression faltered. The blonde stopped laughing. They stared as Lionel rounded the car and climbed into the driver's seat. Mara noticed too. "Give them a little wave, darling," she whispered. I did. Gerald's jaw tightened. The blonde's smile vanished. A spark of satisfaction I wasn't proud of flickered through me. As the car began to move, Mara placed her hand lightly over mine. "Let them wonder," she said. "Confusion is a powerful teacher." Rain streaked across the windows as we glided away from Silver Horizon Casino, away from Gerald, away from 33 years of being overlooked and underestimated. I felt something shift inside me. Not revenge, not triumph, just possibility. But I had no idea that Mara Hale wasn't simply rescuing me. She was about to rewrite my entire life. The farther we drove from the casino, the quieter everything became. No slot machine sounds, no murmured crowds, no Gerald's voice echoing in my skull. Just the steady hum of the engine, and the rain softening as we left Riverstone Falls behind. Mara sat beside me, with an ease that felt almost royal, her posture straight, her silver hair falling over her shawl like moonlit silk. She was studying me, not with judgment, but with intent, as though she were cataloging everything I wasn't saying aloud. "You look like someone who hasn't allowed herself to breathe in a long time," she said quietly. My throat tightened. "It's been a hard few years." "Hard," she repeated thoughtfully. "Hard is what we call a life we've endured instead of lived." I stared at my hands, at the faint tremble I couldn't stop. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now." "You'll figure that out," she said. "But not tonight. Tonight, you're simply going to be warm, fed, and safe." Safe. The word hit me like a bruise pressed unexpectedly. "No one's waiting for you at home?" she asked. I hesitated. "There is a house, but I'm not sure it's mine anymore." I swallowed hard. He took everything, purse, cards, my phone, even what little cash I had. Mara made a soft sound, almost a hum. Cowardly men always steal on their way out. It helps them pretend they had power. Her perceptiveness startled me. "You heard more than I realized." "I hear more than most people suspect," she replied. "Comes with the age and the cane." She tapped the cane lightly against her knee. "People think the elderly are harmless. They say things louder in front of us." I let out an involuntary laugh, a short, shaky one. She smiled approvingly, like she'd been waiting for that sound. Lionel adjusted the rearview mirror slightly. "Miss Hale, should I take the usual route?" "Yes, Lionel. Straight to the estate." "Estate?" I blinked. "Estate?" "Don't worry," she said. "It isn't as intimidating as it sounds." "Well, perhaps a little, but you'll get used to it." I turned to the window, watching dark pine trees pass in a blur. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. Neither did the woman who left you, yet she made a life-altering decision without hesitation." Mara angled her head. "The difference is, I prefer my decisions to help rather than harm. I'd never met anyone who spoke the way she did, measured, sharp, and somehow comforting at the same time. And besides," she added lightly, "I've been in your shoes." I froze. "Your husband?" "No, my daughter." She leaned back, eyes shadowed for the first time. But that's a story for another moment. The car turned onto a long, private road lined with towering fir trees. Ahead, I saw soft lights glowing through the woods. Warm, golden, welcoming. "Where are we?" I whispered. "My home," Mara said. "And perhaps your crossroads." But I didn't know until the front doors opened, that Mara Hale's world held secrets far bigger than my heartbreak. The car rolled to a slow stop before a pair of towering wrought iron gates. They opened automatically with a soft mechanical groan, revealing a long stone driveway curving up toward what looked, at first glance, like a boutique resort tucked deep into the forest. But as we drove closer, I realized it wasn't a resort at all. It was someone's home, Mara Hale's home. The Hale estate stretched wide across a clearing overlooking a lake I couldn't see fully yet, just a glimmer of silver behind the pines. The house itself was breathtaking. Stone walls with ivy climbing up the sides, tall windows glowing warmly, and a sweeping porch lined with lanterns. It looked like the kind of place time touched gently and respectfully. As Lionel parked near the front steps, two people stepped out through the front doors. A middle-aged man in a dark suit and a woman around my age in a soft, beige sweater. They moved with practiced efficiency, clearly used to welcoming guests, or perhaps only Mara. "Welcome home, Miss Hale," the woman said warmly. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." "Change of plans," Mara replied. "This is Elena. She'll be staying with us for the night." The woman smiled kindly at me. "I'm Tilda. I manage the house. Anything you need, you ask me directly. And this," she gestured to the man, "is Rowan, our head attendant." Rowan gave a polite nod, his expression neutral, but his eyes taking in everything. I felt suddenly aware of my cheap jacket, my wind-blown hair, the fact that I didn't belong anywhere near a place like this. "Come inside before you catch pneumonia," Tilda urged. I followed Mara into the foyer, and my breath caught. Warm light glowed from chandeliers made of rustic iron and glass. A stone fireplace dominated the far wall, its flames crackling softly. Everything smelled faintly of cedar, lemon oil, and something comforting. Home baking, maybe. "You're shivering," Mara observed. "Rowan, please bring a warm throw. And Tilda, some soup if the kitchen has anything ready." "Yes, Miss Hale," they said in unison. I lowered myself onto a velvet sofa near the fire, feeling awkward and grateful all at once. Mara sat across from me, leaning forward slightly. "You haven't asked the question yet," she said. "What question?" "Why me?" Her steady gaze pinned me. She wasn't asking rhetorically. She wanted an answer. "I don't understand," I admitted. "You will," she murmured. "But I should warn you, Elena. My life tends to complicate the lives of those it touches." Before I could respond, Rowan returned with a thick wool blanket, draping it around my shoulders with surprising gentleness. Tilda appeared moments later with a tray, a steaming bowl of soup, fresh bread, and tea fragrant with honey. As I ate, warmth spread slowly back into me, not just physically, but somewhere deeper, somewhere bruised. Mara watched quietly, not intrusively, just waiting. And as strange as it was, I felt for the first time in years that someone was actually seeing me. What I didn't know was that Mara Hale wasn't just rescuing me. She was choosing me, for a reason she hadn't revealed yet. By the time I finished the soup, the numbness in my hands had faded. My mind, though, was another story, still spinning, still trying to reconcile how I'd gone from being abandoned in a freezing parking lot to sitting in a mansion that looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. Mara waited until I set the spoon down before she spoke again. "You haven't told me what happened tonight," she said gently. I exhaled shakily. The truth felt heavy and humiliating, but somehow, sitting in that soft chair wrapped in a blanket, I felt safe enough to speak. "Gerald left me," I said. "He took my purse, my phone, everything. He was with another woman." My voice cracked. "He didn't even try to hide it." Mara nodded slowly. "I saw him." The fact that she didn't sound surprised stung more than Gerald's betrayal itself. Had it really been that obvious? "He looked at me," I whispered, "when he saw me in this car, and he looked confused, like he couldn't decide whether to be jealous or furious." "Men like Gerald," Mara said gently, "care only about the ownership of things, not the value of them." I blinked back tears. "You talk like you've known a lot of people like him." "I'll have," she said. "Far too many." Her voice dipped for a moment. Lower, heavier. There was something in it, some private history she wasn't ready to share. But she continued before I could ask. Elena, I don't believe in accidents. Not anymore. People cross paths at the exact moment they're meant to, especially when life is intent on shaking them awake. I wrapped the blanket tighter. Are you saying you think this was fate? She tilted her head. I'm saying I think you were meant to be standing there when I walked out of that casino. Her words made my chest tighten, not with fear, but with an odd, fragile sense of meaning, like something bigger than my heartbreak had nudged the world slightly off its axis. And now, she continued, you are going to rest. Tilda will prepare a room for you. In the morning, we will talk again. I hesitated. I don't want to be a burden. Mara smiled, slow and soft. My dear, you are not a burden. You are a guest. And soon, perhaps something more. Something more? I echoed. She didn't answer. Tilda returned then, leading me down a long hallway, lined with portraits. Faces of people who looked strikingly similar, with the same strong brows and deep-set eyes. A family lineage painted in centuries of oil and gold leaf. I paused at one portrait of a young woman with storm-gray eyes. She looks like you, I murmured. Tilda's face softened. That was her daughter. Her daughter. The words hit me differently now. And that night, as I lay in a stranger's house, I had no idea that Mara's daughter and her disappearance were the true reasons Mara had chosen me. The guest room Tilda led me into was nothing short of enchanting. Soft amber lamps glowed against cream-colored walls, and heavy curtains framed a window overlooking the moonlit lake. The bed was large enough for 3 people, its duvet thick and cloud-like. A faint scent of lavender drifted from the linens. This is beautiful, I whispered. Tilda smiled kindly. Miss Hale likes her guests to be comfortable. If you need anything at all, water, toiletries, a different pillow, you press that little button by the bed. A call button, in a bedroom. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. Thank you, I managed. Tilda left quietly, closing the door behind her. For the first time in hours, silence wrapped around me. Not the cold, empty silence of that parking lot. This one was warm, thick, safe. Still, I couldn't fully relax. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking around the room. Everything was curated. The books on the nightstand, the handmade quilt draped at the foot of the bed, the antique mirror leaning against the wall. Nothing in this space was random. It made me wonder, who had slept here before me? Was this the room where Mara's daughter once stayed? The thought lingered like a shadow. I changed into the soft cotton nightwear folded neatly on the bed. Tilda must have placed it there before I arrived and sank beneath the covers. The mattress molded to my body, warm and comforting. But sleep didn't come. My mind kept replaying the night. Gerald's cold expression, the blonde woman's smirk, the weight of betrayal crushing my chest. Then Mara stepping toward me, her calm voice. Her strange insistence that I pretend to be her daughter. The way she'd looked at me, like she was deciding something. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me under. I don't know how long I slept, but sometime deep into the night, I woke suddenly. A sound, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like someone gently knocking on a wall. Tap, tap, tap. I sat up. The noise wasn't coming from the hallway or the door. It was behind the wall, specifically, behind the portrait hanging across from the bed. The painting was of a young woman in a dark forest, her gaze intense, almost haunting. Tap. My pulse sped. Tap. I slipped out of bed and approached the portrait. The air near it seemed colder. I reached out and touched the frame. The tapping stopped. Silence reclaimed the room. A heavy, suffocating quiet. I stepped back, heart pounding. Was it the house settling? A branch against the wall? My imagination? Or something else? Something connected to the daughter Mara refused to speak about. Eventually, the silence lulled me back to bed, though I'd barely slept until morning light seeped through the curtains. When I opened my eyes, Mara Hale was standing at the doorway. Elena, she said softly, we need to talk. Her expression was different today, more serious. as if last night's secrets were already leaning against the edges of her composure. And that was the moment I realized Mara Hale hadn't just rescued me. She had plans for me. Morning sunlight spilled into the room in soft gold stripes, brushing the edge of the quilt as I pushed myself upright. Marta stood in the doorway, not looming, not intrusive, but watchful. Her silver hair was pinned neatly today, and she held her cane loosely in one hand. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked. "Some," I said, though the truth was closer to barely. "The house makes sounds." A subtle flicker crossed her face. Old estates often do. But something about the way she said it told me she already knew which sound I meant. She motioned gently. "Come, let's walk." I followed her out into a hallway lined with tapestries and shelves of old books, whose spines were worn from years of hands passing over them. Every step felt deliberate, as if she was showing me pieces of her world, one corridor at a time. The house was quieter in daylight, warmer, but under it, a thread of unspoken tension ran, something I couldn't place yet. She led me into a sunroom overlooking the lake. The water shimmered softly beneath a pale morning sky, and tall pines rustled in the wind. Tilda had already set out breakfast. Fresh scones, berries, tea steaming in a porcelain pot. "Sit," Mara said. "Eat first. Talking is easier with food." I obeyed, taking a small bite of a scone. My stomach twisted from nerves and hunger at once. She lowered herself into a wicker chair opposite me. "Elena, I wasn't entirely honest last night." My heart stuttered. "About what?" "About why I chose you." I gripped the edge of my cup. I figured there had to be more to it. "There is." Her gaze softened, but her voice carried weight. "You remind me of someone I lost, someone I failed." "Your daughter," I whispered. She bowed her head. Her name was Lydia. She was brilliant, strong-willed, too trusting, too forgiving. A faint tremble touched her voice. "She disappeared 12 years ago." I froze. "Disappeared?" "Vanished," she said simply. "Her car found near the lakeshore, but no sign of her. The investigation went nowhere." She paused. "But I don't believe she's gone. Not truly. I believe someone heard her, or hid her." A chill rippled through me. "Do the authorities still search?" "They closed the case 5 years ago." Her jaw tightened. I did not. Her eyes, clear, sharp, locked onto mine. "And last night when I saw you abandoned, your face wet with rain, standing exactly where she'd once stood with a man who didn't see her worth, I felt something I haven't felt in years." Without warning, she reached across the table and took my hands in hers. Her skin was cool, but her grip firm. "Elena," she said, "you were meant to cross my path, not as a replacement for Lydia, but as someone whose life is entwined with mine now." A shiver ran down my spine. Not fear, anticipation. What do you want from me?" I asked. Her answer was soft, steady, and devastatingly certain. "I want you to help me find the truth." And that was the moment I realized my heartbreak was just the doorway, because Mara Hale's truth was darker, deeper, and far more dangerous than anything Gerald had done to me. For several long seconds, I just stared at Mara, unsure whether to feel honored, terrified, or overwhelmed. The sunlight pouring into the room felt suddenly too bright, too revealing, as though the house itself had shifted and was now waiting for my reaction. "You want me to help you?" I repeated slowly. "Yes," Mara said, "but not because you owe me anything, because you understand what it feels like to lose something you thought was yours forever." A quiet truth settled between us. I did understand loss, understood it intimately now. Maybe that's why her words slid under my skin so easily. Still, I swallowed. "I'm not an investigator. I don't know anything about missing persons cases." "You don't need to," she said calmly. "Sometimes what's required isn't expertise, but perspective. New eyes see what old ones overlook." "But why now? Why me specifically?" "Because," she said, leaning back slightly, "you already noticed something." I froze. Noticed what? Her gaze sharpened. The tapping. A cold prickle crept up my arms. "I thought I imagined it." "You didn't." She said it with absolute certainty. It happens often in that room. Why? My voice was barely above a whisper. There are parts of this house, Mara said, that were built long before I inherited it. Passages, storage rooms, doors that lead nowhere, and some that lead somewhere very important. Goosebumps rose along my spine. Are you saying someone is inside the walls? No, Mara said. Not now. She paused. But once someone was. The room swayed faintly in my vision. Lydia? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward the lake. Her expression shuddered. I don't know, she admitted. That's the truth I want to find. But there's something else you should understand, Elena. What? You and Lydia share something. I blinked. Share what? A pattern. Her voice dropped, low and steady. Both of you loved men who hid their true faces until it was too late. Gerald's betrayal flashed in my mind like a knife catching light. She was with someone, I asked. Yes, Mara murmured. A man I never trusted. A man she insisted was simply misunderstood. What was his name? Mara hesitated before answering, as if the name itself held weight. His name was Caleb Rourke. The name meant nothing to me, yet it scraped along my nerves like a warning. What happened to him? I asked. Mara's lips tightened. He left town 2 days after Lydia vanished, claimed he needed space, never returned, never answered a single question. My pulse fluttered. And the police didn't pursue him? They called it a coincidence, she said bitterly. But I don't believe in those. She leaned in again. Elena, the reason I want your help is because I believe Lydia didn't disappear by accident, and I believe the man she trusted had everything to do with it. A chill wrapped around me, not just fear, but instinct. What do you want me to do? I whispered. Mara's answer came slow, deliberate. I want you to meet someone who knows more than he ever admitted. She paused. And he's coming here today. What I didn't realize was that the person arriving wasn't just connected to Lydia's story. He was connected to mine. I felt my breath hitch. Someone is coming here? Today? Mara nodded. He agreed last night, though reluctantly. He usually avoids this house. She tapped her cane lightly on the floor. People who carry guilt seldom enjoy returning to the place where their lies were first exposed. Guilt, lies, avoidance. My pulse hammered. Who is he? I asked. Before Mara could answer, Tilda appeared in the doorway, her expression neutral, but her posture tense, which told me everything. Miss Hale, I've just received a call. He's 15 minutes away. Mara dismissed her with a soft nod before looking back at me. His name is Jonas Rourke. Rourke? The name struck like flint, sharp, sudden. Is he related to Caleb? He's Caleb's older brother, Mara replied. And he's the last person who ever saw Lydia alive. The room felt smaller, tighter. Why didn't he come forward before? Oh, he did. He told the police a very convenient version of events. That Lydia left willingly. That Caleb dropped her at a friend's house for the night. That Caleb had no idea where she went. And you don't believe that, I said. I believe Jonas is loyal, Mara said. But loyalty isn't always moral. Sometimes it's blind. A storm of questions swirled in my chest. What makes you think he'll tell you anything now? She leaned forward, her cane hooked around her wrist. Because Caleb died 2 months ago. That stunned me. He's dead? Mara's expression. I opened my mouth to ask what that meant when a distant rumble echoed through the estate grounds. A car, heavy wheels crunching gravel. Mara's lips curved, not in a smile, but something closer to inevitability. He's here. My heart lurched. The air seemed to thicken. From the window, I saw a dark gray truck rolling toward the house, stopping rigidly near the front steps. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, unshaven, eyes shadowed with something between grief and rage. Jonas Rourke. Even though I'd never met him, something inside me recoiled, and something else leaned in, drawn by a strange familiarity I couldn't explain. Elena, Mara said softly, brace yourself. For what? I whispered. She looked straight at me. For the fact that he's going to mistake you for Lydia. And when Jonas Rourke walked through the doors moments later, the look in his eyes told me Mara wasn't wrong. Jonas Rourke stepped into the foyer like a man dragged there by ghosts. His boots were muddy, his jacket creased and damp, his jaw tight with the kind of anger that wasn't directed outward, but inward, the kind that corrodes a person slowly. He stopped abruptly when he saw me. For a full, suspended second, he didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't move. His eyes, storm gray, just like the ones in that portrait, widened. "Lydia?" he whispered. My stomach dropped. Mara watched him with unsettling calm, her cane lightly tapping the floor in a rhythmic pattern. "Jonas," she said, "this is Elena Rowe." He didn't seem to hear her at first. His gaze stayed glued to me, wild with disbelief. I took a slow step back. "I'm not her." He blinked hard, once, twice. Reality settled like a weight, dragging his expression from shock to something jagged, almost accusing. You look exactly like her," he murmured, voice rough. "Same eyes, same way of standing. It's like—" He stopped himself abruptly, jaw clenching. "Like what?" Mara pressed. Jonas tore his eyes away from me as if it physically hurt. "Like she walked back into this house after 12 years. A thick silence hung between us. "Sit," Mara said, motioning to the living room. Her tone left no room for disobedience. Jonas moved reluctantly, his movements stiff. I followed with equal hesitation, sinking into the far end of the sofa, while he chose the edge of an armchair, like he wanted to bolt at any moment. Mara remained standing, leaning slightly on her cane. "Jonas," she began softly, "why did you refuse my calls until last night?" He swallowed. His hands trembled slightly, before he hid them in his pockets. "Because Caleb's dead, and you know that changes things." "How?" Mara asked. He didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked to mine again, quick, involuntary, as if drawn by gravitational pull. "You said you wanted to talk about Lydia," he said finally. "So talk." Mara didn't flinch. "Tell me what happened the last night she was seen." His shoulders tightened. "I already told the police everything." "I'm not the police," Mara replied. That landed like a blow. Jonas rubbed the heel of his hand over his eyes. "Why is she here?" he asked, jerking his chin in my direction. "I asked her to be here," Mara said. "Because you need to see her. Because your reaction tells me something you've never admitted." Jonas's eyes flashed. "Don't start with that psychic nonsense. I came because Caleb is gone. Because I'm tired." His voice cracked on the last word. "Tired of lying?" Mara asks gently. His head snapped up. "Tired of carrying something that wasn't mine to carry," he shot back. The air shifted. "This isn't about me," Jonas said, turning toward me suddenly. "It's about her." My pulse tripped. "About me?" Jonas nodded slowly, a haunted look settling in. "Yes, because someone needs to tell you the truth about what your husband has been doing." And in that instant, I realized Jonas Rourke didn't just know Lydia's secrets. He knew something about Gerald that could shadow everything I thought I understood. My breath caught. "Gerald? What does Gerald have to do with any of this?" Jonas didn't answer right away. He stared at the floor, jaw flexing, as if he were weighing years of silence against the cost of speaking now. Mara stood perfectly still, watching him, not pushing, not rushing, but waiting with the quiet certainty of someone who already knew the truth, just not the details. Finally, Jonas exhaled, long and uneven. "Your husband, Elena. He didn't just change recently. He didn't just accidentally stumble into another woman's arms." I felt a cold ripple slide through my ribs. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he's been involved in something he shouldn't have been," Jonas said. "For a long time, with the wrong people. People who don't walk away cleanly." Mara's eyes darkened. "Just say it." Jonas lifted his gaze to mine, and there was no softness in it now, only grim resolve. "Gerald has ties to the same group Caleb fell in with, the same group Lydia tried to expose before she disappeared." My entire body went numb. "That's not possible. Gerald runs an electrical maintenance company. He barely knows how to negotiate a bill, much less." "It started small," Jonas cut in. "Side jobs, cash-only work, no paperwork. Then it got bigger. Illegal wiring setups in off-grid cabins, quiet installations in places that were not supposed to exist on any map." His voice lowered. "Caleb told me once, that Gerald was one of the few people who could be trusted not to ask questions. My pulse roared in my ears. Mara leaned on her cane, her expression tightening with vindication and dread. "Elena," she said softly, "did Gerald ever disappear for long stretches? Come home late with explanations that didn't add up?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, a lot in the last year. He'd say he was working overtime, that he had new clients in the industrial sector." Jonas shook his head. "No, there were no new clients. There were only new debts. To dangerous men." I pressed a hand to my forehead, trying to breathe, but that has nothing to do with Lydia. Jonas froze again. Then, quietly, too quietly, he said, "It has everything to do with her." Mara took a single step forward. "Jonas, tell her what you saw that night." His face contorted. Pain, fear, shame. "I didn't mean to see it," he whispered. "I wasn't supposed to." Caleb didn't know I was behind the cabin. He didn't know Lydia was meeting someone there. My stomach turned to ice. "Meeting who?" Jonas lifted trembling eyes to mine. "Your husband." The world spun. I gripped the armrest hard enough to numb my fingers. "No," I breathed. "He never mentioned knowing her. He would have." "He didn't tell you," Jonas said softly, "because Lydia threatened to expose all of them, and she thought Gerald might help her." My heart hammered painfully in my chest. Mara whispered, "And instead?" Jonas closed his eyes. That night was the last time anyone saw her alive, and in that moment, I understood something terrifying. Gerald hadn't just betrayed me. He might have been involved in something far darker than infidelity. For a long, brittle moment, no one spoke. The house felt too still, as though even the walls were holding their breath, listening. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, loud enough to drown out the crackling fireplace across the room. Gerald, Lydia, the same night, the same remote cabin. My mind scrambled for explanations, excuses, anything that didn't make him the monster this sounded like. "That can't be right," I said, my voice barely holding together. "Gerald would never. He couldn't." Jonas shook his head slowly. "People do unimaginable things when fear and money choke their judgment, especially when they're caught between the wrong promises and the wrong people. My husband wasn't violent," I insisted. "He wasn't. He didn't have to be violent," Jonas cut in quietly. "Sometimes all it takes is being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong secrets." Mara's chair scraped softly as she moved closer. Her voice was calm, but beneath it ran something sharp, like tempered steel. "Jonas, tell her exactly what you saw." He dragged a hand across his face. His exhaustion looked ancient, carved deep into the lines around his mouth. "I wasn't spying. I only went up to the cabin because Caleb had disappeared from the bar. I thought he and Lydia were fighting again." He paused long enough that I felt my breath lodge painfully in my throat. "When I approached," he said, "the lights were off, but I saw silhouettes, 2 men meeting Lydia by the porch. One of them was Caleb. And the other?" Mara asked. Jonas swallowed hard. "Gerald." I closed my eyes. Gerald had sworn he had never met Mara's daughter. He'd sworn he didn't know anything about that part of town. He'd sworn he was working late on electrical wiring for a lakeside renovation. Lies. All lies. "What were they doing?" Mara pressed. Jonas hesitated. "Talking. It wasn't an argument at first." Lydia was pleading. Caleb kept shaking his head. Gerald kept looking around, nervous. My chest tightened with dread. "About what?" "About exposing the group they were working for," Jonas whispered. Lydia told them she had found something: documents, names, something big enough to ruin all of them. Mara's knuckles whitened around her cane. "What happened next?" she asked. Jonas looked away. His voice cracked. "I don't know. I stepped on a branch. They heard it. Caleb told Gerald to get Lydia inside. And then," he shut his eyes, "they disappeared into the cabin. I panicked. I left. I was a coward." The room fell into suffocating silence. "You never went to the cabin again?" Mara asked. Jonas shook his head violently. By the time I returned the next morning, the place was empty. No Lydia, no Caleb, no Gerald, just tire tracks and mud. My breath came shallow and fast. "Why didn't you tell me?" Mara asked softly. Jonas's voice broke. Because Caleb begged me not to expose him. And because I thought maybe Lydia would walk back into town the next day. He finally looked at me again. Gerald didn't abandon you at that casino by accident, Elena, Jonas said. He's running out of time. And when men like him panic, they get dangerous. The room tilted slightly beneath me. And in that terrifying moment, I realized something even worse. Gerald might come looking for me next. The room felt suddenly smaller, closing in around me as Jonas's words echoed. Gerald might come looking for me. My breath tightened, sharp and unsteady, as if my lungs couldn't keep up with the fear blooming inside me. Mara must have seen the panic rising, because she moved closer, her hand settling gently on my shoulder. Elena, breathe. My voice faltered. You're saying my husband is tied to the same people who may have made Lydia disappear, and now he's just out there? Wandering free? Jonas answered before Mara could. No, he's not wandering. He's desperate. There's a difference. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes dark and hollow. Men in his position, once they lose control, don't think logically. They think in survival patterns. They erase loose ends. A sickening wave rolled through me. Loose ends, I repeated, voice trembling. You think he sees me as one? Jonas didn't look away. If he thinks you know anything, yes, you're a liability. Mara's grip on her cane tightened. Which is why I brought you here. You're safer inside these walls than anywhere else. I almost laughed, the hysterical kind that comes when terror mixes with disbelief. Safe? There were noises in the walls last night. Someone tapping behind the portrait. Jonas tensed instantly, turning sharply to Mara. Again? Mara gave a slight nod, grin, unsurprised. What do you mean again? I demanded. Jonas rubbed the back of his neck, tension radiating off him like heat. The house has history. Before Lydia disappeared, she swore she heard things too. Knocks, scratches, whispers. A cold shiver crawled beneath my skin. So you think someone is in the walls? No, Mara said. Not anymore. But echoes of people don't always leave cleanly. I wasn't sure which possibility terrified me more. The idea of a stranger hiding in the house, or the idea of something else. Something that lingered. Mara stepped forward, her expression carved with purpose. Elena, I need you to listen carefully. There are things Jonas and I have suspected for years. Things about Lydia. Things about this house. And about the people who wanted her silenced. I don't understand, I whispered. You will, she said softly. But not yet. Jonas leaned back, exhaling a heavy breath. Look, I didn't come here to scare you. But leaving you blissfully ignorant isn't protection. It's sentencing you. My pulse pounded wildly. So what do I do? Mara answered for him. You stay here. You stay under my protection. And together, we uncover the truth Gerald tried to bury. Before I could respond, the estate's front door slammed open. A hard, jarring crack that echoed through the halls. All three of us froze. Tilda's voice rang out, urgent and trembling. Miss Hale. Someone's demanding to see Elena. He's refusing to leave. The air in my lungs turned to stone. Mara's face hardened. Jonas stood abruptly. I knew, without needing to hear the name. Gerald had come. And when I heard his voice echo through the halls, cold and furious, I realized running was no longer an option. Gerald's voice cut through the foyer like a blade, sharp, raised, and burning with the kind of fury I had never heard from him. Not even in our worst moments. Elena, I know you're here. My entire body went rigid. Mara moved immediately, stepping in front of me as if her slight frame could shield me from everything storming through the house. Jonas rose from his seat too, every muscle tight, jaw clenched so hard the tendons in his neck stood out. Tilda appeared again in the doorway, her face pale. He pushed past Rowan. I tried to stop him, Miss Hale. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Mara said calmly. Just lock the side entrances and stay out of sight. Tilda nodded and vanished. Gerald's footsteps grew louder, heavier, pounding against the hardwood floor with a fury that reverberated up the walls. Jonas moved to the doorway, positioning himself between us and the sound. Jonas, Mara said sharply, Do not confront him alone. He didn't look back. I'm not planning to. But I could feel the shift in him. The loyalty to Lydia sparking into something dangerously protective. Then Gerald appeared. He filled the doorway with his broad frame, drenched from the drizzle outside. His shirt was wrinkled, his face unshaven, his eyes wild. But what struck me hardest was something I had never seen in him before. Fear. Real, suffocating fear. "Elena," he said. Voice low now, too low. "We need to talk, now." Jonas stepped forward. "You don't talk to her unless she wants to talk to you." Gerald's eyes flicked to him. Recognition flashed, followed by panic. "You," he breathed. "I know who you are." "And I know exactly what you are," Jonas said coldly. Gerald's shoulders stiffened. "This is none of your business." It became my business the night Lydia disappeared. Mara lifted her cane, tapping it once against the floor. An icy warning. "Gerald, you are on my property, uninvited. Choose your next words carefully." But Gerald wasn't listening. His eyes locked onto mine, desperate and unhinged. "Elena, I'm in trouble," he said. "You don't understand. Those people, those men, I can't let them think you're involved." My heartbeat thundered. "Involved? In what?" "They think Lydia talked to you." His voice cracked. "They think she told you things she shouldn't have." I froze. "I told them you knew nothing," Gerald continued. "But they didn't believe me." Mara's face hardened. "What men?" Gerald swallowed. "The ones Caleb worked for. The ones who wanted Lydia silenced." Jonas took a single step toward him, fists clenched. "And what did you tell them?" Gerald didn't answer right away. He looked at me. Only me. His eyes brimmed with a terrified plea. "Elena, you need to come with me. If they think you're here, if they know I lied." "Lied about what?" I whispered. Gerald's mouth trembled. "That I knew where you were." The room went still, silent, cold. He exhaled shakily. "They're coming." And that was the moment I realized Mara Hale's estate wasn't just a sanctuary. It was about to become a battleground. The weight of Gerald's final words, "they're coming," settled over the room like a storm cloud. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was a countdown, already ticking. Mara didn't flinch. She stepped forward with a steadiness that almost defied her age, her cane tapping once against the wooden floor, like a signal. "Jonas," she said firmly, "secure all doors leading to the west side. Rowan knows what to do." Jonas nodded and moved, but not before giving Gerald a cutting look. "If this is another lie, I swear." "It isn't," Gerald snapped, panic edging his words. "You don't know these people. They'll kill her. They'll kill all of us if they think she knows anything." "She doesn't," Jonas growled. "That's not the point." Gerald's voice cracked. "They think she does." My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might bruise itself against my ribs. Why would they think Lydia told me anything? I've never even met her. Gerald hesitated, his throat bobbing in a swallow that looked painful. "Because they think you're connected." My breath hitched. "Connected how?" Gerald's eyes darted toward Mara, fearful, as though he expected her to cut him down with just a look. "Because of where you were last month, Elena. The night you said you were working late at the office." My stomach lurched. "What does that have to do with anything?" "You weren't working," Gerald whispered. "You were at Crescent Pier, the same place Lydia's USB drive was found 12 years ago." I blinked, stunned. "I was there for a client pickup. I told you that. You picked up the wrong envelope." His voice dropped to a devastated rasp. "And they know." My hands went cold. "What envelope?" Gerald shook his head, running a shaking hand through his hair. "I don't know. I didn't know she hid anything there. I didn't know you walked right into it. But the moment I realized you had the wrong envelope, I went back. It was gone." The truth hit me like a punch to the chest. "So you left me," I said stiffly. "Not because you were angry or done, but because you panicked." He closed his eyes. "I abandoned you, so they wouldn't follow me to you. I thought they'd leave you alone if they thought you were nothing to me anymore." A harsh laugh escaped Jonas. "Brilliant plan." Gerald opened his eyes, wild and glassy. "I'm trying to fix it now. You have to come with me. I know where they're watching from." "No," Mara said, sharp and clear. She stays with me. You don't understand, Gerald shouted. They'll burn this house to the ground if they think she's protected here. Mara stepped forward, eyes blazing. Let them try. A deep rumble cut through the air, low, distant, yet unmistakable. Engines. Several. Jonas reappeared in the hall, breathless. They're here. Wind rattled the windows. My blood turned to ice. And when the first dark vehicle rolled into view beyond the tree line, I understood. This night would decide which of us survived. A sound of engines grew louder, multiple vehicles grinding up the gravel path leading toward the Hale estate. The windows trembled with each approaching vibration, and the air inside the house tightened, until breathing felt like swallowing glass. Jonas moved first, instinctively positioning himself between the foyer entrance and the rest of us. Mara didn't retreat. She lifted her chin, her grip on her cane fierce, defiant, almost regal. Gerald, shaking, breath ragged, took a stumbling step closer to me. Elena, please, he whispered. If they find you, if they think you kept the envelope. I recoiled slightly, not from fear of him, but from the agony in his voice. For years, I had believed I knew this man, his faults, his strengths, his limits. But standing here now, seeing him cornered by the consequences of his secret life, I realized I had only ever known the surface of a stranger. Where is the envelope? Mara demanded. I don't know, Gerald said desperately. I swear I never saw what was in it. I only know they want it back. The names, the payments, the proof of what they've been doing along the northern border. Jonas muttered a curse under his breath. Black sites, he said. Caleb hinted once. They were running operations off the record. Hidden, dangerous. And Lydia found them, Mara whispered, her voice tight. And she paid for it, Jonas replied. My pulse hammered. So what do they think I have? I asked. Gerald swallowed. Lydia's leverage. The insurance she left behind. What she hid before she confronted Caleb. Before everything went wrong. Mara's voice trembled for the first time. My Lydia was trying to expose them, and they silenced her. The engines went silent. Not because the men were leaving, no. Because they had arrived. Every muscle in my body locked. Jonas stepped forward, peering through a slight gap in the curtains. His breath hissed. 3 SUVs, he said. Blacked out. No plates. Armed? Mara asked. Most certainly. Gerald ran a shaking hand over his face. They won't knock. They'll come in. They always do. Mara's eyes snapped toward him. And how do you know that? Gerald didn't answer. But the look on his face said everything. Jonas turned toward me suddenly. Elena, think. Did you open the envelope? Did you hide it somewhere? Anything. Anything at all could matter right now. No, I said, voice cracking. I thought it was client paperwork. I never even checked. I put it in my bag and... I stopped. The memory slammed into me. My purse. The purse Gerald had taken. My pulse spiked. Gerald, you took my purse. He stiffened. Yes, the envelope was inside. His eyes widened slowly, like a man realizing he had been walking for miles with a lit fuse in his pocket. Oh God, he whispered. They think you have it, but I'm the one carrying it. The first boot hit the front door, hard enough to rattle the frame. Mara lifted her cane like a weapon. Jonas braced. Gerald shook violently, and I stepped forward, because suddenly, I knew exactly what needed to happen. And with the second kick shaking the entire estate, I understood. If I didn't act now, none of us would make it to morning. The second kick hit the front door so hard the hinges groaned. Dust drifted from the frame. Jonas shifted his weight, ready to intercept. Mara tightened her grip on her cane, her sharp eyes burning like embers. Gerald's breaths came in short, frantic bursts. Everything in me narrowed to a single, terrifying clarity. I'm ending this, I said. Jonas's head whipped toward me. Elena, no, but I was already moving, because I finally understood something. Running would never save us. Hiding wouldn't stall them. Negotiating wouldn't work. They wanted the envelope, or the person who carried it, and that person was Gerald. I stepped into the center of the foyer, voice steady, in a way that surprised even me. Open the door. Jonas stared at me as if I'd gone mad. Absolutely not. They're not leaving? I said. If we stay barricaded, they'll break every window in this house. And Mara shouldn't have to watch her home burn because of me. A third kick shook the house. Elena, listen, Gerald whispered hoarsely. Please, let me talk to them. I'll give them the envelope. I'll tell them you know nothing. You think they'll believe you? Mara asked coldly. His silence was answer enough. I took a breath. Let me talk to them. You? Jonas stepped forward, voice low and fierce. You think walking into the lion's den will convince them to spare you? They won't expect me to walk toward them, I said, and that gives us an advantage. Footsteps outside, gravel shifting, muffled voices. No more time. Mara stepped closer, her hand trembling slightly as she gripped my wrist, not to stop me, but to anchor me. Lydia fought alone, she whispered. Don't make the same mistake. Whatever you do out there, don't let them decide your fate. I nodded. A small, shaking movement. Then I reached for the door latch. Jonas swore under his breath, but he moved to my side. Gerald hovered behind him, pale and shaking. And Mara. Mara lifted her chin, proud and unbroken. I swung the door open. Cold night air rushed in. 3 men stood on the porch, dressed in black, faces hard, eyes scanning, calculating. Behind them, the SUVs idled, like beasts waiting to pounce. The tallest man stepped forward. Elena Rowe? Yes, I said. His gaze flicked over my shoulder toward Gerald. We're here for what belongs to us. I didn't hesitate. You want the envelope? I stepped fully into the doorway, blocking their view of the others. Then you'll hear this first. That caught them. Their eyes sharpened. You came for the wrong person, I said, because the man who took it is right behind me. Gerald staggered, exposed, cornered by truth I had finally forced into the open. And, I added, voice rising, I know exactly who you are, and I know what Lydia Hale died for. Every name, every transaction, every cabin, every border you crossed. A flicker, fear, surprise, passed across the leader's face. Behind me, Mara whispered, Elena. But I wasn't afraid anymore. You can kill us, I said. But those files are already duplicated, already sent, already out. A lie, a desperate bluff. But the men froze. Jonas caught the shift instantly. She's not bluffing, he growled from behind me. Walk away, while you still can. Wind swept through the trees. The leader stared at me, long, calculating, and then, shockingly, stepped back. We'll be in touch, he said. A warning, a threat, a retreat. The 3 men turned, returned to their vehicles, and within seconds the engines roared and the SUVs pulled away, swallowed by the darkness. The moment the last taillight vanished, my knees buckled. Jonas caught me. Mara rushed forward, her hands shaking as she cupped my face. Elena, my brave girl. And behind them, Gerald collapsed against the wall, sobbing, not out of grief, but out of the realization that the life he had built on lies had finally crumbled. I took a long, ragged breath. It was over. Not all mysteries solved, not all justice secured, but the danger, for now, had passed. And in the warm glow of the Hale estate, surrounded by the people who had become my unexpected protectors, I understood something with absolute clarity. Heartbreak had brought me here, but destiny, dark, tangled, and strangely liberating, had remade me. I wasn't the woman who stood in that casino parking lot anymore. I was someone new, someone stronger, someone finally free.